Hey everyone! Today we're diving into a really powerful update in Azure that, honestly, solves one of those classic networking problems that can be a total headache. We're talking about Azure Private Link Service Direct Connect. And believe me, this is a genuine game changer.
So, does this look familiar? I bet it does. You've got two different networks and you need them to talk to each other. But maybe their IP address spaces are a mess and they overlap, which makes routing a complete nightmare. Or maybe for really good security reasons, you just can't or won't directly connect them. It's such a common problem, and for the longest time, the solutions have been, well, let's just say they weren't great.
Right. This is that classic scenario we're talking about. The big networking headache, where VNet peering, which is normally the go-to for connecting virtual networks in Azure, is just completely off the table. This is exactly where network architects have had to get, let's call it creative, and not always in a good way.
Yeah, the usual workarounds involved a ton of heavy lifting. We're talking about spinning up complex VPNs, trying to create these super convoluted peering setups with transit routing, or just managing stacks and stacks of routing rules. All of these just add layers of complexity, they cost more, and they create these brittle systems that are an absolute pain to manage long term.
Now, for a while, Azure has actually had a much more elegant solution for this called Private Link Service. It's an incredibly powerful feature, and a lot of folks have been using it to solve this exact problem. But up until now, it came with one very specific requirement that kind of limited where you could use it. So let's take a quick look at how it used to work.
So the basic idea here is pretty cool. Private Link Service uses Azure's own network fabric to create this secure private endpoint for your service. This little endpoint then shows up inside another VNet, and it lets that network use your service without any crazy routing, no VPNs, not even an internet connection. It's literally bridging two networks that otherwise could never talk to each other. And here was the traditional data path. A request comes into that private endpoint, and then, and this is the most important part, it had to be forwarded to a standard load balancer, no exceptions. That load balancer would then do its thing and send the traffic to your service. So the key takeaway is, your service absolutely had to be sitting behind a standard load balancer. But what if it wasn't? What if you just had a single database with a fixed IP, or some legacy workload that you can't put a load balancer in front of? Well, you were pretty much out of luck. But that all changes right now. This is where we introduce the game changer, the public preview of Private Link Service with Direct Connect. This feature completely rewrites that data path we just saw and honestly opens up a whole new world of possibilities for network design. And here it is. This is the big reveal. No more mandatory standard load balancer. Now, I know that might seem like a small technical change, but I promise you, the implications of this for how you design your networks are massive. This one change removes the biggest constraint that was holding this service back for so many different use cases. Just look at how beautifully simple the new path is. A request comes in through the private endpoint, and it just gets routed directly to any private or static IP in your network. That's it. The middleman, that load balancer, is just gone. It's clean, it's direct, and it is incredibly flexible. So, okay, why does removing just one component from the chain change everything? Well, because it radically simplifies entire design patterns, and it unlocks private connectivity for a whole class of services that were just left out in the cold before. Let's break down what this actually means for you in practice. Let's put them side by side. Traditionally, your destination had to be a standard load balancer. With Direct Connect, it can be literally any routable IP. That means you don't have to deploy and manage that extra piece of infrastructure anymore. Now, the old way is still perfect for your big, horizontally scaled services. But Direct Connect, it is perfect for those single, fixed IP databases or those tricky legacy workloads. So who should be really excited about this? Well, if you're a multi-tenant SaaS provider, you can now offer way simpler private connections to your customers. If you're managing complex hybrid networks, you've got a fantastic new tool in your belt. And for sure, if you're running any legacy workload that you just can't stick behind a load balancer, you can finally expose it privately and securely. Same goes for any fixed IP database or any service that needs a really predictable routing path without any extra hops. You know, what this all adds up to is a brand new chapter in your connectivity playbook. This isn't just some minor feature update. It's a new fundamental building block for how you can design secure and simplified networks in Azure from now on. And I think this quote from the announcement really just sums it up perfectly. This is a real opportunity for all you architects and engineers to go back and rethink your existing designs. You remember all those complex, painful workarounds we talked about at the beginning?
A whole lot of them can now be torn down and replaced with this incredibly elegant native solution.
So, that leaves us with one final thought. As you look at your own environments, your own complex systems, and all those networking headaches you've been dealing with, the question now is, what complex connection are you going to simplify first? Thanks for tuning in.